In the dark forest, outside the ancient hall, Xun'er, Li Xiantong, Su Xian, and the others sat quietly in meditation. Their faces were slightly pale, and the fluctuations of spiritual energy around them were noticeably weak. Clearly, their spiritual energy had been drained. Mu Chen stood outside the gate of the spirit treasury hall. He glanced at the closed door. The hall spirit, which had appeared last time, did not show up again this time. The spirit treasury hall seemed to have returned to its ordinary state, no longer accessible. Mu Chen pressed his hand against his chest, with flames burning fiercely in his eyes. His entire body was radiating a high temperature, and even his spiritual energy seemed to show signs of burning. This was the sign of the divine soul tribulation approaching. Mu Chen, are you all right? Su Xian, being a girl and more attentive, immediately noticed Mu Chen's subtle trembling. She stepped forward to support him, but when her jade-like hand touched his skin, she was startled by the burning heat. I'm fine. The divine soul tribulation is coming. Mu Chen waved his hand, then sat down at the gate of the spirit treasury hall, looking at Chen, Songxing, and the others. In this forest, we cannot use our spiritual energy, but as long as you wear the jade plate I gave you, it will block the effect of this suppression. Though we are temporarily safe, to be cautious, let's split into 2 groups and take turns resting, so no one can sneak in and disturb us. Shin Songxing and the others nodded in agreement. Also, here are 4 drops of supreme spiritual liquid. If you feel restored, try refining them. It could greatly benefit you. Mu Chen flicked his finger, and 4 drops of crystal-clear liquid shot out, landing in front of them. The 4 quickly reached out and caught the liquid. They looked at the glowing droplets in their hands, their eyes filled with excitement. It was clear they could sense the pure, vast spiritual energy contained within the supreme spiritual liquid. At their current level of cultivation, they had reached a bottleneck. If they could refine this supreme spiritual liquid, it might help them take the next step. Mu Chen smiled as he watched the excitement in Shan Songxing and the others' eyes. He felt a sense of relief in his heart. Then, an overwhelming fatigue began to spread from within him, and his eyes slowly closed as his mind sank into his body. He had to prepare to face the divine soul tribulation. Mu Chen's mind sank into his body, diving into the Qi Sea. There, he saw the divine soul sitting quietly, surrounded by a massive spiritual energy wheel, turning slowly like a starry ring, stunningly beautiful. At this moment, the divine soul was clearly different from usual. Its surface radiated a terrifying heat, as if it was about to turn into flames and burn the divine soul to ashes. This was a sign that the divine soul flame was about to condense. The divine soul flame was a fire born within the divine soul. This flame had no harm to the physical body, but for the divine soul, it was potentially lethal. If it couldn't endure the searing heat, the divine soul might turn to ashes. The divine soul condensed the essence of the human body's energy and spirit, which were the most vital aspects. If the divine soul was destroyed, not only would one's cultivation foundation be shattered in an instant, but even their mind would be lost, leaving behind only a soulless body, like a puppet. Among the 3 minor tribulations, the divine soul tribulation was undoubtedly the most perilous. A slight misstep could cause the divine soul to vanish, leading to irreparable consequences. Therefore, facing this disaster, even Mu Chen dared not be the slightest bit careless. Taking a deep breath in his heart, Mu Chen focused his mind, slowly sinking into the divine soul. As he did, the scorching heat enveloping the divine soul caused his body to shiver involuntarily. The pain began to spread silently. Mu Chen's divine soul hands slowly formed the cultivation seals, then began to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The spiritual energy flowed through the meridians, and after being refined, it was injected into the Qi Sea, where the divine soul opened a small mouth and swallowed it directly. Hiss, hiss. As more and more spiritual energy was absorbed by the divine soul, the temperature around it rose higher, and the searing pain grew more intense. Hiss. The small flame, glowing with a crystalline hue, burned like glass. However, it was this tiny flame that made the divine soul tremble violently. The little face of the divine soul twisted, and the hands forming the cultivation seal also shook incessantly. An indescribable burning pain spread from within the divine soul, as if the divine soul itself were being consumed by fire. Sizzling. The crystalline flames on the surface of the divine soul's body began to appear in small, continuous threads, slowly spreading with the passage of time. In less than half an hour, Mu Chen's divine soul was completely enveloped in the glowing flames. Within the Qi Sea, the divine soul was surrounded by the crystalline flames, which burned fiercely. Though from the outside these flames seemed harmless, Mu Chen knew that he was now in extreme danger. The danger he faced now was far greater than when he fought Ji Xian or Fang Yun. At this moment, even the slightest mistake could lead to an unbearable cost. But despite the excruciating pain, Mu Chen had no choice but to grit his teeth and endure. This was a trial every cultivator aspiring to reach the supreme path had to face. Only by passing through these trials could one eventually break free from the cocoon and transform into a butterfly, stepping onto the road to supremacy and becoming a true powerhouse, revered by all in the great thousand worlds. As time passed, Mu Chen's consciousness began to blur. The burning pain was consuming his mind, but no matter how intense the pain, he maintained his clarity. The cultivation seal formed by his tiny divine soul hands never wavered. He had to hold on. A full day passed and Mu Chen struggled to endure. After a day's rest, Xun'er, Li Xiantong, and Su Xian had fully recovered, both in spiritual energy and mental state, no longer feeling the weakness from before. Seeing Mu Chen still immersed in his cultivation and observing the occasional painful expression on his face, they understood that Mu Chen was likely at the crucial moment of overcoming the divine soul tribulation. So, they set aside their own cultivation and heightened their vigilance, driving away any remaining teams trying to sneak into the forest. With the jade plates Mu Chen had given them, Xun'er and the others could freely use their spiritual energy, while the other teams entering the area were suppressed, unable to use their spiritual energy. Thus, when faced with the expulsions from Xun'er's group, they had no strength to resist. 2 more days passed, under the protection of Xun'er's group. Outside the Spirit Treasury Hall, Mu Chen sat silently, like a rock, unmoving. On the surrounding open ground, Xun'er and the others had spread out, standing on the tall thorn trees, their sharp, vigilant eyes scanning constantly. Mu Chen's divine soul tribulation hasn't passed. While monitoring the surroundings, Xun'er took a glance at Mu Chen's figure and sighed helplessly. When we faced the divine soul tribulation, it only lasted 4 days, but looking at Mu Chen, it seems like his tribulation will last longer than ours. Li Xiantong nodded slightly. According to their experience, the divine soul tribulation was the shortest among the minor 3 tribulations, but it was the most dangerous. This guy is getting more and more formidable, Xun'er said with a wry smile. After entering the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition, their strength had improved rapidly. Now, both he and Li Xiantong had the qualifications to challenge the dual divine soul tribulation. This strength was considered quite high in the competition, yet compared to Mu Chen, they still seemed far behind. Li Xiantong also sighed softly, his expression complex. Who would have thought that the freshman who had only agreed to take 3 of his moves would, in just 2 years, grow to a point where even he could no longer catch up? Luo Li's vision is truly exceptional, Li Xiantong said with some bitterness. He had once opposed Luo Li's choice, believing that Mu Chen was not worthy of her. But reality had proven him wrong. Xun'er looked at the bitter smile on Li Xiantong's handsome face and could only pat his shoulder in a gesture of comfort. Whoosh! Li Xiantong shook his head at him, about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. His gaze abruptly shifted to the forest ahead, where a sharp wind cut through the air, followed by a powerful spiritual fluctuation that made his heart tremble. Someone is using spiritual energy in this forest? Li Xiantong exchanged a glance with Xun'er, both wearing serious expressions. They immediately gestured, and Su Xian and Su Huang rushed over, their eyes fixed on the dark shade of the trees. The sound of the wind grew louder and more urgent, until finally, 2 figures shot out from the shadows like lightning. When those 2 figures emerged, Shun Songxing and Li Xuantong's group let out a collective sigh of relief, quickly followed by an expression of undisguised joy. The two graceful figures were none other than Luo Li and Wen Qingxian. They knew that once the two girls appeared, they were completely safe. With Luo Li and Wen Qingxuan's protection, even Ji Xian would be unable to harm Mu Chun during the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition. When Shan Songxing, Li Xiantong, and the others saw Luo Li and Wen Qingxian, their faces also showed uncontainable joy. These past few days, they had been anxiously guarding against any interference that might disrupt Mu Chen's cultivation. As soon as Luo Li entered, her glass-like beautiful eyes immediately turned toward Mu Chun, who was in a meditative state with his eyes closed. The worry on her face slowly faded away. Is he undergoing the divine soul tribulation? When Qingxian looked at Mu Chun in surprise, sensing the unusual fluctuation, Shen Songxing and the others nodded. Are you all right? Luo Li asked. Shen Songxing and the others shook their heads, smiling wryly. Thanks to Mu Chun finding this place, or else we would have had a tough time escaping. Fang Yun is no slouch either. The divine artifact he wields is incredibly powerful. Mu Chun had to pay a price to repel him. But because of that, the divine soul tribulation is even more dangerous now. Normally, during the divine soul tribulation, one would need to be at their peak condition. However, due to the battle with Fang Yun, Mu Chun wasn't in optimal form. In this case, facing the tribulation was far more dangerous than it would have been at his peak. Fang Yun. A cold light flickered in Luo Li's eyes, clearly angered. Fang Yun's attempt to harm Mu Chun probably involves Ji Xian scheming. That guy is too devious. He delayed us on purpose to give Fang Yun time to deal with Mu Chun. When Qingxian said, her face tinged with coldness. Shen Songxing and the others nodded, then glanced at Mu Chun, who was still meditating. Mu Chen's closed-door cultivation might last for several days. It seems that the score gap we managed to close is going to widen again, thanks to Ji Xian. Currently, their score ranked third, with around 110,000 points, while Ji Xian was still in the lead, approaching 140,000. If Mu Chen's closed-door training continued for a few more days, the gap would only grow larger, eventually becoming impossible to close. A thoughtful expression appeared on Luo Li's face. The competition between Mu Chun and Ji Xian was evident to everyone, and she clearly didn't want anyone to underestimate Mu Chun. Qingxian, I want you to stay here for the next few days until Mu Chun successfully overcomes the divine soul tribulation, Luo Li said, after some thought, looking at Wen Qingxian. And you? Wen Qingxian asked, slightly startled. I'll take them and leave for now. At least, I need to preserve Mu Chen's rank. Luo Li smiled faintly. Of course, to make up for your loss, we'll give you half of the points we earn. Such rankings are only worth fighting to the death for by men like them. When Qingxian scoffed, her red lips curling. Don't worry, Mu Chun has helped me, so I'll naturally help him. Thank you then. Luo Li smiled warmly. When Shan Songxing heard that Luo Li was going to lead them out, he was somewhat surprised. Although he knew Luo Li wasn't ordinary, he still saw her as a girl. Don't worry, Luo Li is leading the team. She won't be any worse than Mu Chun, Li Xiantong said with a smile. Although Luo Li hadn't truly shown her strength from start to finish, he knew very well that the girl in front of him was definitely not weaker than Mu Chun. That's good then. When Mu Chun wakes up, let's give him a surprise, Su Xian said, covering her mouth with a light laugh. Shen Songxing could only smile bitterly and nod in response. When Qingxian, who was standing nearby, leaned toward Luo Li and whispered, "It looks like your goal this time is quite big." Luo Li gently twisted the strands of hair near her ear, her movements elegant and captivating, making Wen Qingxian slightly moved. The young girl then smiled faintly and said, "I'm going to take Ji Xian's first place, and my target is that Fang Yun." Wen Qingxian was stunned for a moment. She knew Luo Li's ambitions were great, but she hadn't expected her to aim directly for Ji Xian's spot. Moreover, Fang Yun was no slouch either. He possessed a low-grade divine artifact. Don't worry. As if she knew Wen Qingxuan's concerns, Luo Li gave a light smile. Be careful then, Wen Qingxian replied, nodding in agreement. After their discussion, Luo Li paused for half a day, and then, without further delay, she led Shan Songxing, Li Xiantong, and the others to depart, leaving the forest. When Qing Xian watched Luo Li's receding figure, a smile appearing on her face. It seemed that the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition was about to heat up. Perhaps everyone would soon realize just how incredible the previously quiet and beautiful girl who had always followed Mu Chen had become. When Qing Xian lazily stretched her long, jade-like arm before walking back to Mu Chen's side, resting her hand on her fragrant cheek, she shot a slight pout at him, her tone tinged with jealousy. "You really got lucky. Luo Li actually went this far for you." 3 days quickly passed. During this time, Mu Chen still hadn't awakened. His body had turned a deep red, with intense heat radiating from him, causing the air around him to warp. His handsome face, twisted by pain, looked almost ferocious. Clearly, the divine soul tribulation hadn't been fully overcome. As for this situation, when Qing Xian, who was guarding him, had no way of helping. After all, such tribulations could only be faced with one's own strength. No one could assist him in the slightest. However, when Qing Xian was somewhat relieved. Despite the contortions on his face from the excruciating pain, Mu Chen's spiritual energy fluctuations showed no signs of erupting, indicating that he still maintained some clarity of mind and hadn't let his consciousness be consumed. In this case, as long as Mu Chen could hold on, it was only a matter of time before he passed through the Divine Soul Tribulation. While Mu Chen was enduring the Divine Soul Tribulation, the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition had once again experienced considerable tremors, all caused by Luo Li. Luo Li led her team, but unlike Mu Chen, she didn't target teams ranked lower than 8th in the score rankings. Instead, she set her sights on Fang Yun, who was ranked 6th. This move was undeniably bold. After all, everyone knew that the top 8 teams on the score ranking were the most formidable in the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition, each one guarded by extremely powerful experts, especially someone like Fang Yun, who possessed a genuine divine artifact. As soon as news spread of Luo Li confronting Fang Yun, it caused a stir throughout the competition. This clash was bound to be just as intense, if not more so, than the previous encounter between Mu Chen and Ji Xian. The earth-shaking battle finally unfolded. It was an incredibly intense fight. Everyone could see the massive divine cauldron soaring into the sky, divine light bursting forth, dragon roars and tiger growls echoing through the heavens, stirring the spiritual energy of the world. However, despite the power of the divine cauldron, when the final clear, resonating sword chime rang out, everyone could witness the enormous cauldron being suppressed by the terrifying sword intent that swept through the battlefield. The vast sword intent gathered in the sky, transforming into an overwhelming sea of swords. The sword sea roared past like a torrential storm, tearing anything that stood in its path into fragments. Even the inferior divine artifact, the Dragon Tiger Cauldron, which Mu Chen had failed to break with all his strength, gradually dimmed in the sea of swords and was eventually cleaved from the sky by a giant sword beam. As the sword sea dispersed, it transformed into a cold, long sword that swept across the sky, falling into the delicate, jade-like hands of the young girl. The immense spiritual sword intent that made the heavens and earth tremble faded completely. Everyone saw Fang Yun spit out a mouthful of fresh blood, his complexion immediately turning pale, clearly suffering severe damage. This breathtaking battle had come to an end. Reluctantly, Fang Yun handed over his academy token. A full 40,000 points were swiftly taken by Luo Li, causing the points of Mu Chen's team to soar from 110,000 to 150,000, overtaking Ji Xian, who had reached 140,000 points and was in first place. Thus, the first place title officially changed hands. The entire Spiritual Academy Grand Competition was shaken. After such a long time, the first place finally welcomed its third owner. It was also because of this battle that Luo Li's name echoed throughout the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition. Her fame even began to surpass that of Ji Xian and Mu Chen. After all, compared to them, Luo Li's appearance and temperament alone already gave her a distinct advantage. Of course, the most critical factor was her battle with Fang Yun. After all, in this year's competition, no one else dared to take on the top 8 teams head-on except for her. After this intense battle, Fang Yun's team fell out of the top 8, but as someone truly skilled, he climbed back to 8th place just a day later. However, this time, he appeared much more low-key, no longer daring to show off. Clearly, his sharp edge had been fully suppressed by Luo Li. After the first place changed hands, everyone eagerly awaited Ji Xin's reaction. Given his personality, he was not the type to easily give up the first position. Just as everyone was waiting for Ji Xin's move, deep within the thornbush forest, where Mu Chen had been in seclusion for his cultivation, he finally slowly opened his tightly closed eyes. His black pupils seemed to burn with a fiery glaze, like glazed flames rising within them. He had finally passed the divine soul tribulation. When Mu Chen's eyes opened, his originally dark pupils now seemed to burn with a fiery glaze, making his eyes appear crystal clear. Whoosh! A breath, faintly mixed with intense heat, slowly escaped from Mu Chen's mouth. The high temperature caused the air in front of him to distort, as though a burning scent was being released. Finally succeeded. The fiery glaze in Mu Chen's eyes quickly faded, and soon his body, once tense, relaxed with a sense of relief. He could feel that the excruciating heat from his divine soul tribulation had completely dissipated. He had successfully passed the divine soul tribulation. Congratulations! A lazy, sweet voice came from the side. Mu Chen turned his head and saw the girl sitting on a stone step, her jade hand resting on her cheek, a beautiful smile playing on her flawless face as she looked at him. Thank you. Mu Chen paused for a moment when he saw Wen Qingxian, but quickly regained his composure, understanding her purpose for being there. He immediately expressed his gratitude. During his time in seclusion, it seemed that Wen Qingxian had been guarding him. Wen Qingxian waved her jade hand, her phoenix-like eyes glancing at Mu Chen. How did the divine soul tribulation feel? Mu Chen slowly clenched his hand into a fist and smiled. It was strong. Now, he could feel the immense spiritual power flowing through his body. Compared to when he faced the spiritual energy tribulation, he was now much stronger. If his strength had reached the level of divine soul tribulation during the battles where he dealt with those strong teams for points, it would have been much easier for him. After all, no matter how strong his combat power was, the level of his spiritual energy had been limited during the spiritual energy tribulation. Even with his formidable combat abilities, he could not match the top experts like Ji Xian and Fang Yun, who had already passed the triple divine soul tribulation. Mu Chen's mind stirred, and immediately, spiritual light surged from the top of his head. Soon, a divine soul, identical to Mu Chen himself, appeared above him. The divine soul had clearly undergone a significant transformation, its small body now even more translucent, as if forged from glass. Its tiny hands formed seals, and its delicate face wore a solemn expression, exuding an aura of purity. Mu Chen's divine soul opened its eyes. With a wave of its small hand, the spiritual energy of this world quickly began to gather. The divine soul was exceptionally sensitive to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, so the stronger the divine soul, the stronger its ability to sense and control spiritual energy. Having reached this stage, the divine soul had nearly become tangible, no longer a mere ethereal presence. It had reached a small level of mastery, meaning that even if the physical body were destroyed, as long as the divine soul escaped, there would still be a chance to refine a new body and be reborn. Of course, the most important aspect of the divine soul tribulation was preparing for the breakthrough to the supreme realm. Only with a sufficiently powerful divine soul could one become a true supreme. The divine soul tribulation had 3 stages, and these 3 trials were all preparations for the upcoming supreme realm. In the shining light, Mu Chen's divine soul once again returned to his body. He stretched his limbs and heard a series of crisp, cracking sounds from within his body, immediately releasing a deep sigh of satisfaction. The feeling of growing stronger after enduring numerous trials was truly wonderful. Mu Chen stood up and looked around, slightly puzzled. Where is Luo Li? Wasn't she with you? Congratulations. The team you lead has become #1 on the Spirit Academy Grand Competition score ranking. When Qingxian flicked her slender finger, sending an Academy token toward Mu Chen. Mu Chen caught it in surprise, his eyes scanning the token, and he froze when he saw the first-place team. First place on the score ranking, Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, Captain Mu Chun, score 158,000. Second place on the score ranking, Sacred Spirit Academy, Captain Ji Xian, score 149,000. Did Luo Li do this? Mu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. Yes, when Qing Xian chuckled softly, her delicate hand resting on her fair, pointed chin. Her gaze lingered on Mu Chen as she said, she defeated Fang Yun and took half of his team's score, overtaking Ji Xian and claiming the first place position. Now, Luo Li has become the brightest star in the competition. Even you and Ji Xian may not shine as brightly as she does. At this point, when Qing Xian teased, so, what do you think? What you couldn't achieve, Luo Li did. Doesn't that feel like quite a blow to your pride? Mu Chen gazed at the academy token for a moment, then smiled faintly. It's not a blow to my pride. With Luo Li's talent, she should naturally be very dazzling. I never asked her to suppress her brilliance when standing by my side. Perhaps she also knows how dazzling she is, so after coming to Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, she has been trying to keep that brilliance in check, quietly standing behind me. But sometimes, I wish she could just express herself freely. When Qing Xian looked at Mu Chen, whose eyes had softened, and she could sense the deep affection he held for Luo Li. After a brief pause, she spoke. She keeps her brilliance in check, not just for herself, but also for your sake. She doesn't want to cause you more trouble. Mu Chen nodded gently. He raised his head and gazed at a beam of light shining through the gaps in the trees, extending his hand to pass through it. His voice, though low, carried a touch of resolute confidence and determination. I know how brilliant she is. Perhaps in the future, even more powerful figures will stand between us, but no matter what, I will never give up. Because I once promised her that one day, I too will become a peerless powerhouse. And when that time comes, no one will be able to stop me from holding her hand. His deep and calm voice echoed through the forest, causing Wen Qing Xian to pause in slight astonishment. She looked at the young man standing before her, his tall figure and handsome face bathed in the sunlight, creating a halo around him. In his eyes, there was no hesitation or fear, like a warrior cutting through thorns and brambles, moving forward without regret or doubt. When Qing Xuan's slender jade-like fingers gently fiddled with her dark hair as she murmured to herself, her gaze slightly complicated. There were indeed too many geniuses in this world, but how many could truly become peerless powerhouses, shaking the entire great thousand worlds in the end? However, the resolute look in the eyes of the young man before her caused a slight stir in her heart, leaving her a little dazed. Then, she felt Mu Chen's gaze land on her, lingering on her cheek. When Qing Xian immediately snapped out of it, a rare flush of shyness appeared on her stunning face, and she quickly avoided Mu Chen's gaze. Pouting slightly, she said, "You still want to become a peerless powerhouse? Well, maybe try beating Ji Xian first. That guy is no easy feat." Mu Chen smiled and nodded. He's indeed not simple, but to defeat me, it probably won't be an easy task either. Confidence, I like it. When Qing Xian elegantly stood up, stretched out her jade hand, and cheerfully patted Mu Chen's shoulder. "Do you like men?" Mu Chen asked, surprised. But as soon as the words left his mouth, he immediately felt like he had made a mistake. As expected, when Qing Xuan's delicate brows shot up, and she swiftly grabbed Mu Chen by his collar. Her frosty face pressed close to his, her silver teeth gritted as she said, "What did you say?" Mu Chen forced a dry laugh, his gaze shifting away. "I just don't like to be close to men I don't like. If I meet a man I like, I'll naturally follow him. It's not about me having a problem." Mu Chen, seeing Wen Qing Xuan's flushed face, awkwardly scratched his nose. He thought to himself that he had clearly hit a sore spot. After all, someone as proud as her wouldn't have so easily uttered something like, "old lady," unless he had truly touched a nerve. "All right, I'm sorry." Mu Chen raised his hand in surrender, glancing at Wen Qing Xian with curiosity. He wondered what it would look like if a proud girl like Wen Qing Xian became sweet and gentle when she fell for a man. He was sure it would be a captivating sight. Humph! Wen Qing Xian coldly snorted, calming down. But when she realized she was still holding Mu Chen's collar, and almost pressed up against him, she hurriedly pushed him away nonchalantly. However, her face was even redder now, and her heart was racing. She cursed inwardly at this damn guy who had completely disrupted her composure. We should go too. Mu Chun, no longer daring to tease when Qing Xian, gave a dry laugh and suggested. When Qing Xian gave another cold hum, ignoring him, and immediately shot out of the forest. Mu Chun smiled, his figure moving as he appeared above the thornbush forest. He swiftly formed a hand seal, and a massive light circle emanated from his palms, expanding rapidly. Whoosh, whoosh. As the green light circle spread, the thorny iron trees in the thornbush forest below instantly turned into beams of black light shooting into the sky, eventually all disappearing into the light circle in Mu Chen's palms. In just a few minutes, a large portion of the thornbush forest had been cleared. Mu Chen saw this and finally stopped. The green light circle in his hand quickly dissipated. He let out a deep breath, his gaze shifting to the northwest, a cold glint flashing in his black eyes. He had a premonition that the final battle of the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition would soon arrive. And this time, Jixian, let's truly have a fight. The lush mountains stood tall on the earth, their peaks and ridges stretching to the horizon. In this area, the sound of voices was somewhat bustling, a mix of noises rising up into the sky. This was a resting zone, where many teams had gathered to take a brief rest. Although there were no designated safe zones in the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition, where there were people, there were naturally rules. The resting area was one of those places. Generally speaking, most teams entering this area would temporarily cease their fighting to avoid angering the crowd. On the peaks of the mountains, groups of people gathered, talking among themselves in a harmonious atmosphere. At this moment, however, many teams in this area, while chatting, couldn't help but glance toward a nearby mountain peak. Among the figures present, the one that drew the most attention was a slender and graceful silhouette. She was a young girl dressed in a navy blue gown, with a nearly perfect, delicate face. Her silver hair shimmered like a galaxy, and her pair of pure, glass-like eyes, clear and untainted, were so mesmerizing that they captivated the heart. The girl sat silently in a meditative posture, her expression calm and serene. Despite the various gazes directed at her from all directions, she remained unaffected, radiating an air of quiet independence, almost as if she were detached from the world. Many eyes were fixed upon her, and deep within those eyes that flickered with different emotions, there was a hint of admiration. With such an extraordinary girl before them, it was almost impossible for any man of her age not to be moved. Yet, surprisingly, no one dared to approach or disturb her. Everyone was fully aware that the girl before them was the one who had claimed the top spot on the score ranking board. She was the one who had defeated Fang Yun and led her team to surpass Jixian, a terrifyingly powerful figure. Luo Li, a name as captivating as her glass-like eyes. In just a few days, it had undoubtedly become the brightest star in the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition. Some teams had encountered her team over the past few days, and the outcome was clear. The hard-earned points of these teams were eventually claimed as spoils by Luo Li's team. However, even though they had lost their points, remarkably, none of them harbored much resentment. Instead, they found themselves lingering on the image of that slender and stunning figure. They felt somewhat embarrassed by these thoughts, muttering to themselves that such a beauty could indeed be the cause of great misfortune. Yet, they also understood that someone like her was far beyond their reach. Her excellence and brilliance were clear indicators of her future greatness. As countless gazes continued to rest on her, atop the mountain, Luo Li remained with her eyes slightly closed. The gentle breeze stirred her long hair, which fluttered lightly in the air, releasing a faint, delicate fragrance. Luo Li, Jixian, and his team have closed the gap by 2,000 points, said Shan Songxing, glancing at the academy token in his hand. This guy is really persistent, Li Xianong frowned. Ever since they surpassed Jixian, the latter had evidently been secretly trying to close the gap. He relentlessly seized points in an attempt to overtake them again. Because of this, they had been busier in recent days, launching attacks under Luo Li's leadership, sweeping up points. Fortunately, Since defeating Feng Yun, Luo Li had not opted for excessively powerful teams, instead targeting those that were easier to defeat. Although it slowed their point accumulation, it was a safer strategy, ensuring they didn't exhaust themselves like Mu Chen's team, which had wiped out the strong teams ranked 8th to 16th, but suffered heavy losses. In the process, Shan Songxing, Li Xiantong, and the others had grown stronger. With the help of the supreme spiritual liquid given by Mu Chen, they had successfully passed the dual divine soul tribulation. As for Su Xian and Su Huang, they too had overcome their respective divine soul tribulations. Now, their team's overall strength had truly reached a top-tier level. At present, whether as a captain or a team member, their strength was on par with the other elite teams. The previous imbalance in their team's power had finally been corrected. It was at this moment that Luo Li opened her eyes. She glanced at the academy token. They still held the first position, with a score of 160,000, while Ji Xian was in second with 153,000. The gap was close, almost neck and neck. "Let's move out again," Luo Li said, standing gracefully. Her slender waist was accentuated by the fitting gown, her youthful skin glowing like jade. The sunlight shone upon her, creating a radiant reflection that made it hard for anyone to look away. Upon hearing this, Shan Songxing and Li Xiantong immediately stood up. After taking a moment to rest, their spiritual energy had recovered. In the past few days, they had witnessed Luo Li's power firsthand, and now they fully understood just how deeply she had hidden her abilities while at Northern Heaven's Spiritual Academy. The group got up and prepared to leave once again. Whoosh! Just as they were about to depart, the sound of rushing wind suddenly echoed from the sky. Luo Li gracefully retracted her jade-like foot as she gazed at the two figures soaring from the horizon. In her usually calm and serene, glassy eyes, which were as still as a tranquil pond, a joyful expression unexpectedly appeared. Everyone in the area saw the sudden liveliness in the young girl's beautiful eyes, and their gaze instinctively brightened. They immediately turned their attention to the source of the change. Who could it be to make this usually composed girl reveal such a heartfelt smile of joy? Whoosh! Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, two light figures swiftly appeared in the sky. As the radiance dissipated, the figures of a man and a woman emerged. Mu Chen stood midair, his tall and slender figure exuding elegance, his handsome face framed by a gentle smile as he gazed down at the young girl below. His eyes were tender and warm. Beside him, Wen Qingxian stood gracefully, her golden armor enveloping her delicate form, with a slender waist that could be grasped by the width of a hand. Beneath her battle skirt, her skin was as fair as jade. Her appearance rivaled Luo Li's, with an air of pride that seemed to emanate from the very bones of her being. This proud aura never seemed to fade, no matter the time. It's Mu Chen. Mu Chen's appearance was already familiar to many teams in the Spiritual Academy Grand Competition, so when they saw him, they couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Their voices, however, were tinged with jealousy, a jealousy born of the fact that when Mu Chen appeared, a soft smile appeared on Luo Li's face. That smile was intoxicating. Mu Chen descended from the sky and landed before Luo Li. He looked at the smile on her face, his gaze growing even gentler. He then reached out, gently brushing aside a strand of hair from her forehead and spoke softly, "You've worked hard. I'm also part of this team, so helping out is my duty." Luo Li smiled faintly and replied, "However, since the captain has returned, I should obediently return the position of captain to you." Luo Li handed the academy token to Mu Chen and, with a rare playful wink, she added a mischievous glint to her gaze. This scene made the hearts of those watching stop for a moment. The Luo Li they had seen recently had always been calm and composed. Even in the face of top-tier experts like Feng Yun, her tranquility remained unshaken. But now, she was revealing such a captivating scene in front of a man, which made them feel a twinge of sorrow. Mu Chen smiled upon hearing her words, then took the academy token in one hand while gently holding Luo Li's delicate, slightly cold hand in his. Suddenly held in Mu Chen's warm grasp, Luo Li's fair face blushed slightly. She tried to pull away but remained frozen in place. With no other choice, she gave him a playful, slightly annoyed look. Mu Chen glanced around and noticed many eyes were intently fixed on him. He found it a bit baffling, unaware that his affectionate gesture had already stirred quite a bit of jealousy. We should go. This position is something you've earned through hard work, and I won't let anyone take it from you, Mu Chen said, looking at Luo Li. Luo Li smiled warmly and gently nodded. Buzz. Just as Mu Chen's words fell, the Academy token in his hand suddenly emitted a humming sound, radiating a dazzling light. At the same time, the Academy tokens in the hands of all the team captains in the area also began to glow. Everyone was stunned and quickly raised their tokens to look. Their expressions instantly changed. On the score ranking, Chen, who had been in second place, suddenly surged ahead at an astonishing speed, instantly surpassing them. Moreover, his score skyrocketed from 150,000 to an astounding 200,000. Their scores had surged by an incredible 50,000 points. How is this possible? Someone exclaimed in shock, completely unable to understand how Chen's score could have increased so drastically. They saw that the top 8 teams in the rankings hadn't changed, meaning Chen hadn't defeated one of the top 8 teams. So, where did his points come from? The entire area was filled with the sound of stunned murmurs, and everyone's eyes were now focused on Mu Chen. Mu Chen's smile also slowly faded as he narrowed his eyes. Before he could speak, his pupils suddenly contracted sharply. He had just seen that Chen's name, which had been in first place, was now ablaze with fiery light. At this moment, both Luo Li and Wan Qingxuan's faces changed dramatically.